Oh, wow. The fuck was that? Ugh. This game is physically making me ill. Oh look, I'm a different anime girl now. I won't spoil anything for you in this video. I care about spoilers very much, and I would hate to be spoiled by some rando on the internet. So, anything, I'm going to talk about all the spoiler-related stuff at the end, and I'll give you fair warning before I do. And all the footage that you're going to see on the screen here will be from the first, like, 4 zones or so. So there shouldn't be any surprises for you. So I have thoughts on Sonic Superstars, but, like, I didn't want to make, like, a scripted video, because then it's suddenly a review, and I didn't really want to do that. So this is more just, I'm going to ramble into the microphone and cut it down later, and hopefully it works out. I think rather than doing this, like, the good and the bad, since my thoughts are disjointed because the game is inconsistent, we'll go by, like, category of sections of the game. So we'll start with music. Now, I'm not a musician. Music is incredibly subjective, and it's always up to the individual to decide whether you like a piece of music or not. But aside from quality of music, a big issue I have with the music in Sonic Superstars is an inconsistent, or rather non-existent, musical identity. So with the exception of Bridge Island Zone and Pinball Carnival, every level in the game feels like it lacks a musical identity. Like, it doesn't follow that typical Sonic formula that you would expect from games from Sonic 3 and Knuckles onward, where the first act is a song and then the second act is like a remix or plays off of that first act song, so that the level has this cohesive theme to it. Like, if I played you Hydro City Act 1 and then a bunch of other music, and then Hydro City Act 2, you would be able to tell me when I play Hydro City Act 2. Because it has that identity, that through line between the songs, and so much of this game lacks that. Like, all of this game lacks that. The only stage, like I said, the only 2 stages that have that identity consistent is Bridge Island Zone and part of Pinball Carnival. The only other piece of music that, like, gives me any sort of specific feeling of identity is Lagoon City, because the Hydro City motif is in there, which is a reference. It's a fun reference more than it actually means anything. And that's kind of not great. I mean, it's great on its own. I love it. I love that song. Lagoon City Act 1 is a great song. But it doesn't fix the problem at all to throw in a little reference to Hydro City. And that's not T. Lopes' fault, because all of his music is fantastic and has catchy melody and identity in the individual song. The issue is that because he's not composing every act in the game, the next act will come along and it's a different composer who didn't cooperate with the first act of the song. So as an example, Speed Jungle Act 1 is the best song in the game, easily. Speed Jungle Act 1 is the best song in the game. The following 2 acts, because there's Speed Jungle Act Sonic, whatever the fuck that means, and Speed Jungle Act 2, are completely different songs. They're not even connected to each other. So Act Sonic and Act 2 don't even talk to each other. So it's like there's no identity to that level all of a sudden, because every single act is a completely different, not even a completely different song, a completely different melody, a completely different vibe. It's crazy to me that was the direction they went, was just like, let's make a soundtrack that's completely disjointed from one half of a level to the next. It's not even like a different themed level. It's not even from one zone to the next we have a completely different musical style. It's from one act to the next. Speed Jungle Act 1 and Speed Jungle Act 2 have completely different feelings to them, and that's insane to me that was even allowed to happen. That's before even talking about the quality of the tracks. A lot of the music, and a lot of people are saying this, and I hate to agree, but it's true. The only music in the game that's really any good or fantastic is composed by T-Lips. There's a bunch of tracks actually that I do really like, that are pretty good, not composed by Jun Sano, which we'll talk about in a second, that are also very good. But T-Lopes is very clearly the winner here. He has the best tracks for sure. It's not even a contest. Jun Sano, what happened, man? Yeah, I've heard you compose bangers for Classic Sonic. You've done it before. And even like weird instrumentation aside, this faux Genesis sound font that you use for Sonic 4 and Sonic Superstars, putting that aside, you're a better composer than this. Like, if you want to talk about in this sound font, Splash Hill Zone from Sonic 4. That's a sound font aside, that's a good song. Was it White Park from Sonic 4 Act 2? That's a great song. Again, instrumentation is a problem, but the melody and the composition is solid. This is not. And you want to go back even further, you could look at tracks like Green Grove from Sonic 3D Blast in 1990. What was that? 1995? Let me look that up. 1996. Green Grove Zone for the Genesis in 1996. I believe that was you. You know what? Let me double check that you even composed that. No, Richard Jacques was the Saturn version. I'm looking for the Genesis version. Jun Sano, you made that song. That song is amazing. That is one of my favorite classic Sonic songs ever. The bass line alone could cure cancer. That song is so good. You can compose for classic Sonic. You've done it before. What the fuck happened? Like, you had fuck-ups in Sonic 4 for sure. Boss theme, like, holy shit. I don't know if it's if you just maybe it's just a lack of passion for it. Not that he has a lack of passion for music creation, but like maybe he just doesn't like the classic Sonic vibe, which is fair. You give this man a guitar and he will fucking end the world with some of the nastiest music you've ever heard in your life. It's not even that it's bad, because a lot of it is. Some of it's just lazy. Like the boss theme. Again, with the boss theme. You've composed decent boss theme. I want to double check that I know what I'm talking about. One sec. Okay, he only composed for Sonic 3. I thought he did 1 and 2 also, but I'm wrong. But still, the Sonic 3 boss theme is solid. I mean, there's a few of them, but like, this is the motherfucker that composed Big Arm. Like, what? That is like the single most badass song in all of Sonic. Aside from Crush 40, which he also writes the music for. So I don't understand. There's so much hate going around for him right now. And I feel really bad. And I don't want to add to it, because he's clearly a fantastic musician. He's written my favorite song of all time. He wrote Live and Learn. That is my favorite song ever. So, to me, it's not that he lacks the talent or that he can't do it, because he's written, a ton of Sonic 3, not all of it, obviously, Michael Jackson, but he's written a bunch of Sonic 3. He wrote Big Arm. He's written, Sonic 3D Blast for the Genesis also has a really good soundtrack. I know a lot of people prefer the Saturn one, I think, but I have always loved that Genesis soundtrack. Has sick bass. And that's a big part of it, right? Is that these songs don't have bass. There's so much emphasis on the percussion for some reason in Superstars, like in Jun's music for Superstars, that these songs don't have any bass. The bass I mean, they have bass, obviously, otherwise it wouldn't be music, but like, it's the most boring bass on the planet. There are other composers here, because there's a ton of... I got to the credits and I was like, holy fuck, that's a lot of composers for a classic Sonic game. There's a lot of composers here. It's hard to tell them apart. I could pick out T. Lopes, I could pick out Jun Sano. I can't really, you know, put my finger on the other ones. It's actually kind of hard to pick out T. Lopes because, again, you could tell when it's Jun because he uses the Genesis sound font, but it's tough to pick out T. Lopes from the others sometimes. Sometimes it's so obvious it hurts, but others it's like, that could have been him, but maybe not. Jun's directing of the soundtrack, because he was the music director, or whatever the role, lead composer, whatever the role is called, it lacks cohesion. It feels like every composer was told, here are the acts that you are composing for. This is like what the level looks like. Go. Don't talk to each other. Just compose. And it leads to some decent music sometimes, but it's a complete lack of cohesion or identity in the entire game. And it gets to a point where it feels like Jun had to fill in the gaps. And it happens so often that I'm by end game, I'm like, this is just all that garbage Sonic 4 sound font. Because people keep calling it the Genesis sound font, and it's not. It's like a shitty imitation of the Genesis sound font. It's got the snare drum. That classic Genesis snare drum. And that's it. Because even among Jun's tracks, like, one act to the next is like a totally different song. They don't talk to each other at all. Okay, that's enough about music. I don't even know what I'm talking about technically. Let's talk about the art. The art style, art direction, animation, all that. Again, it's inconsistent. Sometimes it's beautiful. Sometimes the environments are insanely detailed and it feels like these are really creative places and zones. And other times there's nothing going on. Golden Capital Zone is so boring to look at, to play, which we'll get to in a minute. But like, some of these levels are gorgeous and a feast for the eyes and a creative smorgasbord of visual ideas and colors, and they're beautiful, but some of them are just nothing. You know, it's like, I'll play one level that's insanely detailed and visually interested and keeps me engaged and I'm looking around and want to explore. And then I'll play the next level and I feel like I'm playing the Sonic equivalent to New Super Mario Brothers. Like, it's really that bad sometimes. As far as animations go, everything that isn't a player character is animated. Everything that isn't a player character or a boss is animated like it's 2007, which is a shame. But the characters look great. I love the new running animations. They're so much... Sonic's running animation is so much better than it was in Generations. And I think Forces had the same one from Generations. I'm not sure. I don't play that game often. But like, Sonic's new running animation's fantastic with the way they did the leg swirl. They did a really good job with that. Tails feels a little awkward sometimes. Like, his transition from his different running speeds is a little weird, but that's not the end of the world. Amy, I get what they were going for. I don't think it super worked. She's got like... I think they're trying to convey that she's not quite as fast as the others. So her legs don't completely spin around. They just kind of smear as she's running. And I get what they were going for, but I think her bouncing up and down makes it difficult to follow the animation and makes it hard for me to say that feels good. That's a little nitpicky though, because they definitely tried hard with that one. I could see they did a good job. That's a little nitpicky. It's not a big deal. Now, I'm aware a lot of people complain about the animated cutscenes. The opening, I feel like it has cinematography issues. The camera moves way too much, and it makes the action super difficult to follow. But honestly, aside from that opening movie, the rest of them are pretty good. Like, I mean, sure, you can nitpick, like, certain things. Okay, I'm not even tabbed in. Why is it? I'm using my scroll wheel to scroll through my notes, and it's, like, trying to make me bigger and smaller on VTube Studio. What is happening? I don't remember how big I was, so I'm just gonna move a little bit. Sorry. I think my only other biggest thing, it's Sonic. Just Sonic in general. Classic Sonic, I feel like they've lost the plot on Classic Sonic. Because he's cute, but that was always like a consequence of his character design. Being cute was like, oh, you know, look at this cute little guy. It's just, it's Sonic. You look at Sonic and he's cute. But I feel like they weren't trying to make him cute. He was just cute, always. So what you want to do with Sonic, I feel, is you want to make him cool. Because the cuteness will come. He will always be cute with that classic design. So he should be trying to be cool. And he will be cool if you do that, but he'll still be cute. So I don't know if they're like concerned that, oh, people won't think he's cute if we make him like have that 90s attitude back again or whatever. But he will always be cute with that design. Inherently, he's cute, but he needs that like edge, that coolness to come back. And considering the fact that he makes this stupid face for the entire game, I feel like we've lost the plot on Classic Sonic a little bit. Let's talk about gameplay, because do I have a lot to say? Okay, early on in my playthrough, I encountered this glitch. I got it on tape. On tape? How the fuck old am I? I recorded it.
Why?
What? Hello?
Start.
Hello? And I was able to replicate it. That happened to me every time the game was like, do you want to go to the shop? And I would go to the shop and then exit the shop. And that would happen to me every time. And honestly, that had me scared that the game was going to be a buggy mess. And there are other glitches. I ran into collision detection issues. There was one bit where I was running really fast on one of those like sideways walls in Bridge Island Zone, and it like teleported me into a bottomless pit. That sucked. I was scared, but the game didn't end up being nearly as broken as I was worried it would be, so that's good. I'm just gonna run through some of my notes here. Speed is kind of a concern for me. Now, I feel like there were these videos comparing the game's physics to Mania's physics, and the physics are kind of there for the most part. The physics are really close. It goes somewhere between Generations Classic Sonic, and Mania and the classics. It's not all the way there, but it's pretty close. It's pretty good. Oh, and another note on the physics: you can't badnik bounce. So the way jumping on enemies works in Sonic is that if you jump from a high cliff onto an enemy, you will then bounce back up to about, if not exactly, I'm not entirely sure, you'll bounce that height back up to the height of the cliff where you jumped from. So it gives you this insane amount of height to bounce off of enemies. That's not in the game at all. You get like a set amount of bounce when you hit an enemy, which is confusing. Don't know why they did that. You can't spam the spin dash. Like when you hold down, you can't like spam the A button and it keeps making that sound and you rev up faster. You can do it a few times, but it's like, it feels like there's a limit on it. It feels wrong. Something's up with it. It almost feels like it's broken, like a glitch. And I don't think it is, but I don't know what their intention was. I tried holding it too. I was like, oh, maybe they're just changing the controls. I was like, hold down and hold A, and that didn't do anything. Overall, the spin dash is super weak. And I don't know if that's what's leading me to feel like the game is slow. Telling me nothing. It's just, like my phone just rings sometimes and there's nothing there. I don't understand. Obviously, when it shoots you through speed boosts and loops and stuff, it's fast, but like, I don't feel like I gain speed just running down a hill and I do. I can see that I am, but it doesn't feel like enough. I don't know, something's off with that. And I think part of it might have to do with the fact that the camera is so zoomed in. It's insane. I meant to do this before I started, but I'm gonna put it up on screen. Maybe I'm insane, maybe I'm crazy, maybe Mania and the classics are this zoomed in. If we overlay the images together, I have it on screen right now. You can tell me, but the camera is so zoomed in. The characters are so big that like I've seen it in multiplayer and some of the boss fights where the camera zooms out. And I'm like, oh, I can finally see. I wish, whether this is what the classics were or not, I think it could just be this art style. Like, the camera needs to be zoomed out. And I get you want us to see the detail, but I think you have more room there that we can still see the detail on your characters and not be so close to them. And what's great about 3D is that you can do a cinematic camera. So like, you want to do like a cool scene of Sonic running into a boss room, you could push the camera in and show him close up as he runs into the boss room or something. But the camera, while I'm running around at super speed, the camera doesn't need to be in his face the whole time. It makes it really hard to react to things, because this game's level design is insane. Some of the shit they expect you to react to is nuts. And again, the game's not even that fast, but like, it will just throw you through like a very clear go fast here bit of level design, and then smack you in the face with an enemy to punish you for going fast, where the level design clearly communicates to you that this is where you go fast. It's a mess. It feels disjointed. It feels like, the level design itself is a problem, but it feels like somebody else was in charge of placing enemies and they just had no idea how Sonic is supposed to feel. There is not a single death in this game that I didn't feel cheated. I didn't feel like a single death in this game was my fault, ever. And I feel like that's a real problem. It's beyond like, oh, get good skill issue. And I'm sure that's part of it. I suck at video games, but like, if your player constantly feels like they've been cheated when they die, then that's a problem that needs to be looked at and solved, because I don't get that feeling with other classic Sonic games. Sometimes Sonic 2. Fucking Metropolis Zone. Mania didn't make me feel this way. Mania felt fair. I felt like I was in control the entire time. Every death was clear. There was a clear mistake that I made that I could correct my next time through. And Superstars does not have that. I have to play through sections of the game over and over and over and over again, just because I get cheap shot by something off screen, or something that I couldn't react to in time, or something just completely outside of my control, and it's really obnoxious. And honestly, to be fair, this applies to like the second half of the game, because the first half of the game is actually super solid. Up until I'd say like maybe the sand level. Lagoon City is about where the game starts to get iffy. The sand level's pretty good. And then after that, it's just shit show after shit show. A lot of these levels have really cool gimmicks. And they like don't explore them. Like at all, which is really strange. These like harpoons in Speed Jungle, they're really cool. And I could think of a few different level designs where this could be awesome. Like, I mean, it's mostly spectacle, but like, I'll jump off a ramp, and as I'm coming down, like in my path is the trigger for one of these, and a harpoon comes across and stops me from going all the way down. But like, maybe if I took it with less speed, I could go down there and see what's down there. But now, like, it's bridged this gap or whatever. Like, there's cool interactions that could be done here, but it feels like they just scratch the surface and then move on. It's like, why did you bother programming these gimmicks if you weren't going to use them or explore them to their potential? And what makes that gimmick thing frustrating is that all those really cool gimmicks that I kind of like are in the first half of the game. Because by the time you hit the second half, they've like run out of ideas. Like, almost entirely, with the exception of the cyber level. It feels like the cyber level was maybe like the second level created and then pushed towards the end of the game, because that level is super out of place. But like, it feels like the first half of the game is packed full of these like halfway decent gimmicks, and then the second half has nothing. Just absolutely nothing. And it's baffling because the gimmicks in the first half are not explored like at all. So it's like, why don't you expand some of that and spread the gimmicks out across future levels? These new Emerald powers, I didn't use them much. And part of that is on me. I should have been more willing to experiment. But to be honest, in this fast-paced game, forcing the player to take a second to select a power out of a wheel feels unintuitive. It's kind of silly to like expect me to like either stop in the middle of this like high-paced, this high-speed platforming and select a power that I want out of a wheel, which half the time I can't even remember what the powers are because they're kind of not super interesting. But like, I either have to stop to select them from this stupid wheel or memorize where they are on the wheel and select them as I go, which is a possibility, but like, you're really going to force your players to memorize your menu layout in order to play your game effectively? That's a little silly, I feel. So I honestly ended up not using them very much. A, because, I mean, that's kind of my fault. I should have tried a little bit harder, but like, it's super unintuitive. It's not user-friendly at all, especially to beginners. I don't understand how somebody who doesn't play Sonic all the time is supposed to sit there, unless you expect them to genuinely stand still, which is going to, like, ruin the experience for a lot of these new players. Okay, boss fights. There's one boss in this game that I like. Every other boss in this game is boring, tedious, frustrating, and confusing a lot of the time. Because sometimes it's not even clear how to hit them, which is bullshit. Because what makes a good Sonic boss fight, or at least classic Sonic, and I don't even like when modern Sonic does this, but like, I should be in control of the fight, in the pacing of the fight. The only thing that should be stopping me from hitting the boss is the boss attacking me. Right? I want to be able to make the decision, okay, I'm not going to attack right now because if I do, I'll get hit. Not, I can't attack right now because the boss is in the fucking background. That's stupid. And it ends up being this incredibly long waiting game. Don't even get me started on Fang. That's a whole can of worms. But every boss fight does it. That's just the worst one. It ends up being this stupid waiting game of the boss is in the background. I can't hit it right now. I'm going to dodge its attacks for fucking 30 seconds at a time, and then I get my chance to attack it. I should be in control of the pacing of the fight. I like this clown thing because the only thing stopping me from hitting it is these stupid little tokens. If I collect all these tokens at my own pace while dodging enemy attacks, I can then attack the boss. I'm in complete control of when I get to attack the boss. The only thing I have to do is collect these tokens while being attacked. That's it. There's no waiting for the tokens to appear or for him to put the tokens on the ground so I can pick them up. I'm in complete control of the pace of this fight, and that's why it's the best fight in the game. It's the only one that doesn't frustrate me to no end. And genuinely, if you put this in a classic, if you put this in Mania, if you put this in Sonic 3, I think this is a great fight. I think it's a super interesting fight. Okay, let me talk about some spoiler stuff now. So if you haven't played the game and you want to, this is goodbye. Have a good day. Make sure you drink water. We need to talk about Trip. Naoto Oshima, your company, Arzest, does not have a great track record right now. But what I've come to decide is that your character designs are phenomenal. You know, we could even look at Balan Wonderworld. That game is trash. The game is garbage. You know, it's not a good game. Balan and this other guy whose name I don't know, they look so sick. These are such cool characters. These are fantastic designs. And the same is true for Superstars, because Trip might be the best thing to ever happen to classic Sonic. This character is fucking adorable. I fucking love Trip. And I think the rest of this video might be me just gushing about Trip. So for Trip, for most of the game, is wearing this helmet and this armor, and when I first saw it, I was like, that's a little weird. But I had this vibe from the start that, like, she's gonna take that helmet off. That helmet's not staying on. And I was so right, because she takes the helmet off, and she is adorable. Look at her. She's so cute. I love this character. She then takes the Chaos Emeralds and turns into a fucking dragon. I think that I can justify the existence of all of Sonic Superstars in my head because of Trip the Sun Gazer Lizard. She is adorable, and I love her so much, and she turns into a donut when she jumps, and she's amazing, and I hope she's here to stay, and we get tons of Trip in the future. I hope she shows up in future games. I hope she shows up in the IDW comics. I want her everywhere. I love her. I've only had Trip for like a week, but if anything happened to her, I would kill everyone in this room and then myself. I love her so much. Look at her! Naoto Oshima, you're fucking mastermind of character design, and I think you need to just run with that, because, my god, you need to be all over the Sonic franchise again, just designing characters left and right. Holy shit. This is so beyond impressive, honestly. It feels like Trip has been here from the beginning, and I think that's what's so fantastic about her, is that she fits in so well. I don't even have more to say. It's like Trip has been here since 1991. I don't see any other way. There's no way this character came out in 2023, in the year of our Lord, because she's been here all along. I love her so much. Okay, so Superstars is, to me, really disappointing. And I keep seeing people sing its praises, which, good for you. I'm glad you all like it, but I feel like I'm crazy a little bit, because I feel like if I only enjoyed about half of the game, being the first half, and I did enjoy it. I know I complained a lot, but I did actually quite enjoy a lot of the first half of the game. That's not good enough to me. And I feel like we've gotten complacent as Sonic fans in mediocrity. Because we'll see a game that isn't a complete dumpster fire and go, this is the best Sonic game in years, which is insane to me, because there are people out here genuinely claiming that Superstars is better than Mania. What are you fucking talking about? If you want to say that you like Superstars, if you want to even tell me that Superstars is a good game, that's fine. It is not better than Sonic Mania. That is insane. That is an insane thing to say. Insane people would say that thing. It's just, I feel like I'm the crazy one somehow. I feel like we're not having a conversation about this game that should be had, which is, this game is pretty... It's okay. It's even good if you want to call it that, but it is extremely flawed. Extremely flawed. And I feel like nobody wants to talk about that. So I feel like I'm going insane. So it's a little disappointing to me that, you know, the best praise I can give Superstars is that Trip exists. And other than that, I'm not looking forward to playing this game again anytime soon. Which is a shame, but we always have Mania, and I did buy it on PC so that hopefully the community can mod the ever-loving fuck out of it, and it'll be a really cool modding piece. That was my hope from the beginning. It's not all bad. At least a competitor didn't come out with a masterpiece of 2D platforming just 2 days later.